Well, welcome back, everybody. My name is Craig, as you've heard, and I'm so grateful that you guys have dedicated your time to this 3-day seminar. Because oh, now you're laughing nervously. You didn't read the fine print, everybody. I have a huge amount of information to cover in 45 minutes. And that's why it's such a privilege to speak at faith-based churches, because that's where I can get it done, I guess. So there is just so much to share when it comes to this specific topic. Really, children do need guidance through this very difficult time in life that they're going to go through. And you'll hear so many people end up saying, no, kids are fine, they bounce back, they're resilient, they're going to be okay, don't worry about it. And generally when a family separation or a divorce takes place, the children end up being the ones that are just like the tag along. Someone once mentioned that the kids are like the refugees of divorce. They're the ones that are just left to the side, just to fend for themselves, and they tagged along into, the situation that is ahead. So trying to put all the information that goes into this area into a 45-minute slot is impossible, Even God would have said, look, if I have to create, the earth in 45 minutes, guys, it's going to look a bit different. So he took 7 days. I don't have that privilege, but I'm going to trust in his faithfulness and goodness to be able to I've put down a whole lot of stuff. But here's a specific group of people that need something, and God can, through me, help that to come through to you so that you can go away with what you need. The presentation that you're going to see is in a PDF form. My email will be at the back. There is a specific little ebook that I've written about the impact of divorce and separation on kids. That is a free download on the website. So wait at the end. Don't worry about taking too many notes and things like that. Just concentrate. I would love to have a Q&A session at the end, which is probably not going to happen. But we'll definitely see what we can do. I have this amazing opportunity and talent to speak. You could speak to my wife and she will agree with you. I have this ability to share. And being up here is just an amazing thing of how God works in your life. I used to be the kid that used to get sick before they had to go to school to do the speech in front of all the other children. I've had the opportunity of speaking in front of 7,000 people. So it's quite a crazy, change that God can make in your life. I have been very privileged to work in big organizations and small organizations. The last place where I was involved with, we at the time for pre-COVID were sitting at 11 campuses, 2,000 kids on a Sunday and about 350 volunteers, and I was sorting out all the logistics to make that happen as, in the children's ministry. So here I am. I have my golden ring that I wear very proudly, very happily married, and yeah, I'm talking about brokenness in relationship. What is this about? So when I did do talks and things like that for adults going through the process, and they see me upstage talking, and they see this ring, it's like, what this guy gonna know about? Not realizing that this is the second time I'm wearing a ring on my finger. I've been through the valley of the shadow of death, and I know what it's like. So when I speak to you, I don't speak to you about thumbsuck stuff. I speak to you about real things that I have been through. And I've walked through the valley. I'm on the other side. On my way up at the top where the sun is shining brilliantly, I can shout over to you, keep going. It's going to get easier. You can do this. It's not something you have to do alone. We've heard things about how families were started in that. And I do have to share this little section. I had been divorced for quite a while, no kids or anything like that. I was back up in Joburg. I had been in the Promised Land, down in the Western Cape, and I came back up to Egypt. But I knew there must have been a reason to be in Egypt, and so I was hoping to find that out. And I was in the church foyer, and a prophetess from America came through, and she walked past, and she stopped, and she looked at me, and she came up to me, and she said, "I'm very sorry. I normally speak to groups of people. This is the first time I'm doing this, but I have to tell you, sir, you're going to marry a red-headed lady. You're going to have 2 children, one blonde and one sort of like ginger, blonde, auburn hair. They're going to be sort of so high, so between 2 and 4 years from one another. But do you hear me? You need to hear this." I said, "Yes, I do." And off she went. So I thought, that's interesting. And I realized, that in all our lives, God has built that shelf where you put stuff on. So I put it on the shelf, and I thought, okay, God, whenever, I deem it a privilege being a husband. I want to be a husband. I want to do things right. And I was heading up the divorce recovery program at the church at the time. And my goodness, we had started a new course, and the room was about this big. There were probably the same amount of people attending the brokenness course that we were working through. And in the back door walks a lady. I can close my eyes. We've been married for 22 years, and I can tell you what she was wearing and how she looked. And it was almost as if I heard the words behind me, "That's the lady you're going to marry." And it was like God speaking to me so clearly. I wanted to turn around and say, really? But I knew there was a process that had to happen. She had to go through a process, and I was going to have to go through a process. But she was exactly point 1 of the prophecy. Hey, wonderful. So we're going through our premarital counseling. I knew the pastor. He says to me, "Look, you've been divorced, so this is a conditional 6-month premarital counseling. And if I say it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen." I said, "It's fine. I've known you for 14 years. I trust you." Well, we were a little bit into it. He was like saying, "Yes, guys, I'm learning stuff from you. Do you want to move the wedding a little bit closer?" And one of the things that came out is my wife said to me, she's polycystic. She lost her first ovary when she was in high school, and she can't have kids. So that's just one of the things she wants to put on the table at the beginning. So I was saying, yeah, okay, yeah, look, that's what you say. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And yes, all the GPs and all the MedFem specialists that she's been at telling her stuff. But I said, God has told me this. And so anyway, long story short, which I try to do a lot of the time, we ended up being married. We said that we're going to just trust to have kids. And we named our children way before. They were even in my binoculars. So our girl we were going to call Amber because my wife studied geology. And it's amber, preserver of things good. So it's that resin just being around, preserving whatever is inside of it really good. Ethan, on the other hand, got his name from Psalm 89, which is one of the guys that wrote the Psalms. And one of the amazing things that is stated is that, and the only man wiser than Ethan was Solomon. So what a wonderful thing to speak over your children. We were sitting down watching a movie, got both totally shocked at the fact we were watching Mission Impossible. You guess what my surname is? Hunt. We had named our son Ethan Hunt. We declared that he was going to be Mission Possible whenever he came along. So he came along 4 years down the line. We waited 2 years. Amber was born. We went to the guy and we said, we are pregnant. She said, come here, let me tell you how you can't be pregnant. I'll do a scan and I'll show you. She put Chanel down, put the gel on, she put the scanner on, and that heartbeat came through like anything. Well, if I could explain the way she looked at me and she was like, how on earth did this happen? I said, you're the doctor. I said, we did what we should do and God did what he should do. So, and anyway, when we were back there 4 years later with Ethan, she said, come in. She didn't stop or anything like that. And both our kids wouldn't turn, so we had to have cesareans for both of them. So when she was, we were in there with Ethan, she says to Chanel, my wife, she said, listen, while I'm in there getting Ethan out, do you want me to tie your tubes so that you don't have any more kids because you've got your pigeon pen, everything like that? We said, yes, cool, do that, that's fine. So we went from a doctor that said impossible to a doctor that said, can we close the factory? When God's involved with things, he does exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think. So, when we go through brokenness and broken stages as families, and I'm sure if I got you to raise up your hand by saying you came from a divorced home, you came from a broken home, you have a sibling that has gone through it, you know somebody at work, you've got a colleague, probably everybody would say they know somebody that has been through a divorce or some sort of family brokenness. What I've been doing this for 20 years. It's 2 decades that I've been working with divorce and broken people. And the word divorce then was understood. Nowadays, if I say divorce, people will come to me and say, hey, man, you know what? The divorce stats are much better. It's like, no, dude. That's all that's happening is people aren't getting married anymore. So your stats are getting affected hugely. Shame, I should actually keep still for the camera, guys. I'm a bit of a mover when I'm on stage. So you should have put like footprints here where I could have just stood. So anyway, yes. The other thing that does happen with me is you're going to have to listen very, very quickly and fast. So I pray anointing over all of your ears because I speak fast. The information changes hugely. And if you do hear like cars skidding to try hit into one another, it's just the one thought trying to not hit into the other one. So if I lose my train of thought, I'll come back and things like that. So you're not going to leave there too confused. You're going to basically get a good general knowledge of the topic. So all of that said and done, I have to now create the heavens and earth in 32 minutes. So guiding families through family separation is quite a thing. One of the things that I look at saying is, what are a kid's 3 greatest fears, would you think? So just think about that for a moment. We've had some professional people speaking about things. If you think about what do kids, if they ask, what is the greatest fear? Well, the number one was loss of a parent. They're really scared about losing a parent. The second one was public embarrassment. They don't really want to get embarrassed in public. And the third one was failure at school. Interesting to see that the child that is going through divorce or a family separation of some sort has all of those 3 things happening at the same time in their life. They've lost a parent. They're embarrassed about it. And it tends to impact their education at school. You'll see later on with some of the statistics, particularly kids in math, their scores can plummet. That logical thinking gets impacted. So, yes, they do get impacted through the family breakup. We learned and we were told about the thing of, the connection that we have and things like that. So the kids have had a connection with you, and depending on what age they're at, you're going to have a different kind of impact that, comes through. But the thing is, everything on which this child has built their foundation, everything you've told them, everything they've seen you do. Remember, parenting is caught. It's not taught. It's by what they see you do, not what you tell them to do. And so when a divorce, family separation takes place, their whole world gets shattered. Their foundation can fall apart. And the interesting thing is, it's not just for little ones. You know, if there are people that are married with kids and their family, their parents get divorced, it ripples through their relationship as a couple, because all of a sudden, I have a family and a wife and that, and everything I've built my family on here was built on that just sunk. And all of a sudden, I get this huge fear. Is this going to work? Am I going to be able to do it? My parents didn't get it right. So they say for kids going through divorce that the trauma can be up to 10 times more difficult for the child than for the parent. And we say, but why? Well, the fact is we have life experience that we can lean on. We've been through a bit of difficulty. We've been through a bit of things that we can use to be able to lean into and say, I know it's going to get better. I know I can get through this. They don't have that depending on their specific age. So there you can see that a lot of the children said when they went through the divorce or breakup, that was actually the day that their child had stopped. And for many children, it can be a really difficult, depending on the age. A teenager can all of a sudden now become mom's confidant. And, dad this and dad that. And now they're having to try and help their parents through the process, that they're dealing with. And generally, 99.9% of the time, the kids are going to blame themselves. They're going to say it's their fault. Why? Because kids are very egocentric. The universe spins around them. You generally will see that, it's about me. And so when they think that way, what they're thinking is, whatever I do impacts my world around me. So the impact that's happened in this world around me at the moment means I've done something wrong. And so they blame themselves. And we're going to get a little activity that we'll speak to that just, is something that you can share with somebody or use yourself or whatever. God was being amazing. He's given me so much creativity. Once, when no one was looking, I said to him, God, is it okay to have so many talents? I mean, I feel like this is really bad. It's like, goodness, you've given me so many things I can do. I've ever thought if I get to pastor a church, I cannot get it wrong. Not a chance. There's no excuse. It has to be right. So God has given me so much talent with things. I play guitar, I write poetry, it's all the wonderful things. My wife's birthday cards, you can imagine, and all of it. She was born on Valentine's Day, the 14th of February, so there's opportunities I get. But anyway, so moving right along. So, the kids really do get impacted hugely by what takes place in the divorce. And that's because some of the stuff that we've heard already that's been shared, about the connection, they might have had a very good connection with the dad, and now he's out of the picture altogether. So they are going through grief. They are going through some really difficult things in their life. And we sort of are, as the adults, also battling with some stuff. So now we are saying, well, I need to get myself right, so I'm working on this. They're going to be fine. The fact is, there's no embarrassment in turning around and saying, I need help. It's the most important thing. If your kid is sneezing and there's children's ministry people and parents here, and snot is going all over the carpet and things like that, and it's like, I've just washed that, let's get to the doctor and get you better. You're going to do that. If your child is not well, you're going to go and you're going to make sure that they can get better. Why wouldn't we do that when it comes to counseling? Everybody, we have this, counseling is like a negative word. Don't say it. It's the C word. Don't say counseling. A long time ago, God said to me, change that word. Don't use counseling, So I was like, okay, Lord, what must I do? And believe it or not, he said to me, counseling here is how people, they think something is wrong with them, even though there is something wrong with them. But the fact is rather, let's look at it as, I'm going to mentor you. I'm going to, actually, what God said to me, change the word to coaching. I'm going to coach you. Do you need a coaching session? Come over. Why do you go for coaching? So you can hit the ball better, so you can catch the ball better, so you can do better on the ice skating or whatever. That's why you go for coaching. So counseling, coaching, we help children get through the difficult things. Boys will tend to act out worse, so there's hitting and fighting and beating. If there's brothers, the brothers will be at one another. Girls, very different, they internalize it more, become emotional, and you find that there can be things where there's self-harm, cutting, and stuff like that. So it's important to be able to see, where they're at. And I'm sorry, I do feel like somebody that's given you an amazing Italian recipe, and you have to go make it tonight at home, and you've never seen the ingredients and never done anything like this. But please don't be overwhelmed by all of the information coming out. You can speak to the guys here. They can be in touch with me. We can do something specific if that is needed to help you through the process. This is just to be able to say, we cannot fix the kids. You can't fix it. We've messed up as the adults, but the fact is, you can help them to have the tools they need, the understanding they need to be able to navigate this process a lot better. And, like I was saying to somebody, if I tell you now we're going on a hike, get ready, you're going to be sort of a little bit apprehensive. I'm in slip-slops. These aren't the right shoes I'm wearing. It's really hot today. I didn't bring a hat. But if I came to you and said, we're going, here is the kit bag. We've already checked what shoe size you are. Here's the shoes. Here's your food pack, everything. There's water in that. You're going to go on that journey a lot more confident, saying it's okay. And then hearing, there's a tour guide as well. Oh, wonderful. We'll do this. So don't look at getting assistance or getting help as being something wrong. It's empowering yourselves to know how to help your children is the best thing that you can do for both of you. I'll speak just now to a study that was done. So, the thing that they go through as well is there's going to be anxiety because all of a sudden there's a parent gone. So they might not feel as safe in the home. They might feel that, Dad used to come and give me read the bedtime story at night, and now he's not there anymore to do that. And depending on their age, if they're much smaller, they then all of a sudden get this fear that the other parent is going to leave them. So they become very clingy. It's like always want to be around mom, particularly like preschoolers. They become very clingy because they have that fear of abandonment. And then they can be going through a whole lot of, physiological things that will happen to them. We look and we say, why is my kid acting like this? They haven't wet the bed ever. But regression can take place. A child starts sucking their thumb where they never did that. They start doing things where you would look at an adult, and basically what the adult does, they go into coping skills. They find coping mechanisms. So it's going to be, drinking, it's going to be overeating, it's going to be whatever, social media, those kind of things. Binge watching a series I don't think is bad, though. So that's okay. We cross that off your list because I have done that with my wife, and it led to no harmful thing whatsoever. Okay. The only harmful thing was waiting for season 2 to come out. That's the difficult thing. So, the thing as well is, let's not say to the kids, get better, pipe up, it's going to be fine, No, Allow them to be sad. They have loss. They're going through loss and grief. Okay, 20 minutes. Help me, Jesus. That's a short prayer. You can all pray at any time, okay? So some of the facts is that if a child is 6 years old, they are statistically the age that it mainly happens at, where kids will be when the divorce takes place. And you wonder, no, but how can that be? Well, generally people wait a little while, or, they'll start a family early. So the problems will arise and things like that within the first 6 years, and that if they're not compatible, as a married couple. So when we look at that, 6 is definitely a place where, we have a lot of kids. I'm not saying that they're all at that particular age. Interesting in studies, we see today that puberty has been, kids are hitting puberty a lot earlier. And that's through, yes, all the other stuff that's taking place in our food and hormones and stuff like that. But the amount of pressure that's been put on them, they're having to grow up much, much sooner. In our days, to get your hands on one of those magazines that were not allowed to be seen by the boys kind of thing, and, were smuggled around in great circles and, code words written and everything. Now, your son just got to pull out his cell phone and type an address into a browser. It's like, we really, really need to make sure that they have that God connection, and we are giving them the tools in order to be able to navigate this process. So, one of the things as well is 50% of the fathers were absent 3 years after that separation or divorce had taken place. And a lot of it can be because if things didn't end amicably, what happens is the one parent will keep the other one away, keep the child away, or they will fight around things. Or the things that I've heard, is that your dad on the phone? Tell him they're going to kick you out of school if he doesn't pay maintenance, kind of thing. So all of a sudden, the kids get pushed into this thing of having to, I've said in one of the things that I did, please remember, it's not their war. It's not their war. So don't expect them now to act as, your platoon going out to fight the battle for you. Interesting, in a study, 37% said that actually 5 years down the line from when the separation or the divorce happened, when the family broke apart, kids were impacted and even more unhappy than in that day. Because what do they say? Time heals everything, they'll be fine. No, it doesn't, particularly with kids. And because we're dealing with developmental phases, what ends up happening is at a specific age, they will go through a specific thing when the divorce happened. 10 years later, they're going to hit another wobbly because of the same thing. Because sadly, when divorce or separation, family breakup happens, it's a lifelong thing. It don't go away. It just has different phases and different things. So you have to equip yourself to be able to navigate it. Okay, like I'm having to equip myself to navigate 16 minutes. So moving right along, we might bounce through a few of these very fast, and I'm glad that you are all able to do that. I can see, tea. You've all just been able to have a cup. One of the things I was just looking, God downloads these amazing things and just pictures and stuff like that. All the work that I've done, the board game that I developed for kids going through divorce is called Divorce Safari. I'll put a picture up at the end. The adult program is called Mosaic, and there's a whole story to that as well. But God gives the ideas through just common day stuff for us to be able to really understand, so that when we see things, it reminds us. When you make a cup of tea, the longer you keep the tea bag in the water, the stronger the brew gets. So that is really for the thought. The longer you keep the thought at bay, what's going to happen there is the emotion is going to be intensified, and with the emotion being intensified, the action naturally is going to be far greater. So what we've got to do is we've got to make sure, we're trying to deal with the kids, and we're trying to eliminate the action, the behavioral thing, what they're doing. You've got to go a little bit back and to see what are they doing with the thought process. What is causing them to experience that emotion that is getting them to have that outburst? Because many times kids, I have a thing where they say, you don't understand my behavior, says the child, but neither do I. Okay, so the other one that was there, you'll see the picture come up later, is what I call shadow beliefs. So now if you had grown up and you were standing in the sun, and whenever you came out, you grew up from your patio, you stood in front of the sun, that's what you felt, the warmth of the sun, the brightness of the sun, the brilliance of the sun. But if someone else came out of their front door and there was a massive tree that had grown there, every time the sun was over there, they would go out, they would see the light, they would experience the heat, but the experiences of the two people are going to be very different, because someone has grown up under what I call a shadow belief. You grow up under what you think something means, what you think love is, because you were exposed to it a certain way, what you think trust is. And so what happens is we've got to help these people to be able to move out from where that tree is casting that shadow and they are living in. We've got to move them out into a place where they can see what the truth is. We're not going to be easily, it's not going to be easy to just uproot the tree. That's something that's grown really strong with a huge root system and things like that. So we can't do that. The other thing is there's something that we call our belief system. Now, our belief system at the bottom there, you can see all our information comes in, sensory information comes in. We've got a belief system like a little, computer there that takes in all the information, and we've got our emotions, and so there's this internal thing that takes place. They're sort of computing with one another. The fact is, if your belief system for some reason is warped, it's been impacted through your childhood or whatever, you are going to make your calculations, your action, or whatever that comes out is going to be based on that belief system. So just a quick one, if you had have grown up in an environment where your parents said wearing tracksuit pants as a guy, illegal. No, you cannot do it. You will be struck by lightning should you go outside. God does not like tracksuit pants. You cannot. And you grow up and everything, and you go to varsity, and you even go one step further. You go to a Bible college to study Bible things, and you see guys there wearing tracksuit pants. No lightning bolts, nothing weird ended up happening. And then you go and speak to one of them and you say, what's going on? And they say to you, well, you know what? You can wear tracksuit pants. There's nothing wrong with it. So they help you through the process. Someone even goes and says, hey, let's go tracksuit pants shopping, man. We'll go do that. There's so many places we can go. And they go and get you a pair of tracksuit pants. You go home, guaranteed, the first time you put on those pair of tracksuit pants, what are you going to feel? Guilt. You're going to feel you're doing something wrong because your belief system is busy telling you from the way it was programmed, you can't wear tracksuit pants. So we have to go through that whole behavioral change thing. Okay. So those are just some small things. Everything they learn will not come from you alone. You didn't realize they were doing this, say, when you were in the shopping centers, that babies talk to other babies, and then you go home and all of a sudden you wonder, why is this child of mine crying all the time? They were saying, hey, that's the easiest way to manipulate mom, just cry kind of thing. And so make sure, okay, that your kids aren't talking to one another when you're in the shops. No, not really. But your input counts. You need to make sure that you give input. Connection, like you heard. Connection. You need to connect with your kids. They don't always need correction. They need connection. Because when they're connected with you, that correction will almost automatically align itself. They will come to you and say, I think I did something wrong. Instead of you having to go to them and say, you did something wrong. Because they have that connection, they feel that they can speak to you. When you're parenting, are you parenting as a cowboy or as a shepherd? Now it's like, how do you parent as a cowboy? Here, here, here. Are you like, here, go, go, go. Kids don't respond well to that kind of thing. And some of them might be running around doing, stuff for you. But the fact is, if you look at parenting like a shepherd, we know from Scripture that the shepherd would leave the 99, go out and go get the one, and come back with it around his neck, carrying it close. We need to be shepherding our children. Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. Let's be shepherds to our kids. Read through that psalm. It's an amazing thing for parenting. Really is. Okay. I'm not too sure that photo meant, exactly, but parents are the rock on which their children stand with confidence. Okay. That child was standing confidently on Dad. He had and just for all you parents, we do get that tired that they could stand on us and we wouldn't even wake up, hey? But fortunately now I have a 16-year-old son and he couldn't stand on me. I'd be dead if he did that. And, my daughter's older. So as they get older, things do get a lot easier, especially if, like we've heard, you walk that walk, you've done a connection, you made sure that they biblically, that's their core belief system. It's amazing. We come back from church now we can have a talk about stuff. Now they're asking questions about things. And then sometimes my daughter will, but Dad, I couldn't do this as good as you. I said, my darling, I'm 55. You're turning 20. How much life experience do I have on you? Don't try do what I do the way I do it. God's got his own way that he's leading you to do it, and you're going to be in an amazing place. Okay. Please put on your safety belts. This could get dangerous because we've got 5 minutes left, so it could be fast. Parenting goes downhill when separation happens. They just let the kids go wild. Kids are wise. Just make sure there's none of them here. They are very clever. They will manipulate you if they know you're going through a hard time. They will play on the fact that mommy's crying all the time and I can get that new computer game. They will use it. So please don't leave cokies around if you've got small kids. They tend to rearrange the way their sibling looks, and I don't think it's a good idea. So just quickly, one of the things on the side there that we would start when I would be working with children going through a divorce or a family breakup is bake a cake. Now we think, what, bake a cake? God downloaded this like a sermon to me one day in the same way he would to a pastor giving him a word. And so if I ask you here, this bunch of very, very, goodness, you can get an opportunity to bake a cake at any time. What do we need when we bake a cake? Who would be willing to shout out something? Flour, eggs, baking powder. Who said we must just go buy the one in the box? But think about it. Think about it. We can't start with any of that stuff unless we've got the recipe. Because if I'm making a cheesecake and I'm making a fridge cheesecake and I'm using the oven, that's the wrong cheesecake. I'm going to really make it flop. So what we do is I get the kids together. I normally work with 6 kids at a time. I give them all the ingredients to make this 3 minutes, Lord Jesus. So we're going to bake this cake. And so I get them to put all the ingredients in. They're mixing it. They're all excited about it. We're making a cake. It's going to be amazing. Then I have my little container at the end. They can't see what's inside. And I say, you know what? For a cake to be really chocolatey, you want it to be nice and chocolatey. So you need at least 1 cup of mud. And I put it inside and mix it in. Now I can start seeing their faces. And I said, you want it crunchy, so let's just put the eggshells in. And they always say, we need to have a balanced diet. It needs to have fiber. So 3 pieces of toilet paper. And some toothpaste, all those sauce packets that you keep at home. Nando's, all that sauce. It eventually starts smelling like a terrible, terrible thing. Use a glass container because you might melt the plastic one, okay? And so I mix this whole thing up and I say, guys, we're going to go make this cake. Let's go have it. They were like, no way, so I'm not eating that cake. I said to them, what? I'm the adult here, you're going to eat the cake. No, we're not eating the cake. I said to them, well, what's the problem? Well, you put in the wrong ingredients. And I say to them, the reason your family broke apart was nothing to do with you. Sorry. It was nothing to do with you. The fact is that mom and dad didn't read the recipe properly. They chose to put in their own ingredients, and they caused the cake to flop. So the fact is, in order for you to have a good cake, mom and dad have to be apart. And when you're with mom, you can build a great cake. And when you're with dad, you can build a great cake. But you just can't build a great cake together with them. Family constitution, just quickly, in 1 minute. It's on my website as well. When you get into step parenting environments and blended families, which we're not even going to get to, you can't have the step parent disciplining the other child. So it's important to do a family constitution where you have all the rules and all the responsibilities and things written down. You come together, you agree about it, and you say, this is the consequence. So what happens is when stepdad comes into the room and the bed isn't made for the 13-year-old stepson, he then says to him, hey, come here quickly. He goes to the kitchen where it has been nicely laminated, and he says, what does it say over there? Yep, you need to make your bed. And what's the consequence? Okay, you got to give me your phone for the rest of the day. So what happens is, there's a go-between there that's doing the work for you. It's not about me as the step-parent causing the trouble. You use that family constitution. You can read about it on the website as well. Practicing self-care is very careful. You can't care for your kids properly if you're not taking care of yourself. Okay. And when you take care of yourself, that's why there's a drop there. It has a ripple effect. It ripples out. You become a very nice person. And just lastly, blended families, everybody thinks, hey, we're just going to get remarried, we'll mix our family together, everything's going to be fine, we're going to be good. No. Statistics says up to 82% failure rate, and it can take between 5 and 7 years for a blended family to stabilize. There's a whole lot of things to be said, but the fact is you've got to remember when you bring in 2 families together, the kids that were the older kids could now be the younger kids. It causes a whole lot of things. So if people aren't informed about it and aren't empowered, it can become quite a difficult situation. That's my email address, Craig@OneLifeMentor. Please, I don't sell insurance and all those things, so don't ask. And I'm going to come back to it at the end. This is the board game that we can always see about getting people that are involved in professional environments or pastors and things like that, that you can work through processes with the kids. That's what it looks like. I've got a massive floor one that's this big. The kids take off their shoes, they climb on it, they become part of the experience. Works really well. And I'm just going to leave that up there, saying thank you very much for the short time I had to be with you.